All right, so I'm back with the video. I think we got the audio taken care of, and so that was one of the issues for a week or so. But I just want to talk a little bit about Essay 4 with the research element. Oftentimes, I have students, write on a topic, and they write generally, which isn't bad, but it's not as good as it could be. I gave you a couple of articles, and what you want to do is respond to this specific article, which means you want to pick one and then quote from that article, just like you did in Essay 2, and discuss the quotation, discuss the significance of it. And that can be a very helpful thing. Now, I recommend, the block method for incorporating your research, meaning you start with your intro, right, where you're going to, in your introduction, you'll mention the name of the article as well as the author in that first paragraph, in that opening paragraph. And then in your body paragraphs, I would alternate between quoting from the article, your primary source, and then quoting from one of your secondary sources. Okay, so you have your introduction, and the sample essays do a fairly good job of this. You have your introduction where you mention the author and the name of the work, and then in your first body paragraph, you quote from the article, and discuss whichever aspect you want to discuss, and then the following body paragraph, you quote from one of your secondary sources. Now, a couple of notes with your body paragraphs. Try to make them at least 8 lines long. I tell students that you want to have, for college essay writing, I think it's a good rule of thumb to have your body paragraphs longer than your introduction and your conclusions. What that does is just, it ensures that you're developing your ideas enough. Also, when it comes to quoting, sometimes students will ask, well, how much should I quote? And what I tell students is, it's not, the answer is, it kind of depends. But I say it doesn't matter how much you quote or how little you quote, as long as you're following what I call the 1-to-2 ratio, which means for every 1 line you quote, try to have 2 lines worth of discussion about that quote before moving on to the next quote or to the next thing you want to discuss in your paragraph. Okay, or even to the next paragraph. So for every 1 line you quote, try to have at least 2 lines worth of discussion. And for this essay, go ahead and quote directly from both your primary sources as well as your secondary sources. Meaning, I don't want you to do a lot of paraphrasing. A lot of times students will paraphrase whole paragraphs, which is great, I guess, but I want to know what you think. So it's easy to get sort of carried away with paraphrasing. Just worry about quoting directly. And remember, you don't have to respond to every point that the author makes in these articles. Now they're fairly short, so you can if you want to, but really you may just want to focus on a couple of things that the authors talk about, and that's fine. But just remember, for every 1 line you quote, try to give 2 lines worth of discussion. Also, when quoting, with your body paragraphs, don't start with a quote and don't end with a quote. Meaning, I want your voice to be the strongest voice in the essay, so begin with your voice, like with a topic sentence where it's all your words. You're not quoting from anyone at any point in your topic sentence or in your transition sentence, the last sentence of your paragraph. After that, like if in between your paragraph, if you want to quote from the body, from one of your sources, that's fine. But I try to tell students, let your paragraph breathe for about 2 to 3 lines before you introduce a quote. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. And also, what I'm going to do is, I posted the MLA handout, and I'll make a separate video on the MLA handout. And what that'll do is, kind of show you how to go about putting together, or how to use the MLA sheet that I gave you correctly, because it's not a difficult thing, but it can be a little confusing if you're unsure how to do it, or unsure how to use it. In fact, I might be able to pull it up right now, and that may help you. I've never switched cameras before while doing a video, so this will be my first time, but I think I'm going to be able to do it. Oh, here we go. I got it. So here we go. We are on present desktop. Okay. All right. I think we're still going good. So actually, all right. So a couple of things. So you get the MLA packet, and the good thing about this is that you don't necessarily need all 10 pages. You really just need pages 5 through 10. And the reason why I say this is because page 5 here is where we have the the MLA citation page, which I think can be confusing for a lot of people. But essentially, please do not give me a works cited page that just has a bunch of links on it. That is the quickest way to show your professor that you're not really sure what you're doing, which is fine. You don't have to know everything. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want to make it seem like you have no idea at all, especially if we give you a handout. For example, if you are, it's going to start with print, like one author, and then it's going to move to digital media or electronic sources. So how to cite a website, how to find something that you access through the internet, how to find an article that you found through a journal or magazine. And so it kind of goes to the online thing, shows how to cite a YouTube video. So it's a lot of helpful things. And then if you go to the third part, it's things that you can't read, like things like interviews, like a personal interview that you do with someone over the phone, or even face to face. Right over here where it says telephone interview, you would say face to face. So this is essentially how you do your works cited page, and they provide an example. Just kidding. I will, if you look at the example essays, those do have examples of how to go about putting together a works cited page. And a couple of notes, you notice that it's in alphabetical order. They each end with a period. It's almost always going to have at least one thing that's italicized, except if you're doing the interview. And so these things are, it's not too difficult. It's going to be the same font as the rest of your essay. So when it comes to your works cited page, if you go to a website and you, like they have like easybib.com and things like that, but they don't always have the font in 12-point Times New Roman font. And so you want to make sure that you use that it's 12-point Times when you go to submit it. Does that make sense? So you may put the information in, and it may be in Calibri font, but before you submit it, you need to highlight it and make sure that it's 12-point Times New Roman font. So you want to do that. Alphabetical order, it's going to end in a period. You don't number. If you notice, you use what we call hanging indentation, which is an easy thing to do when it comes to these assignments. So the way you do hanging indentation is if you have a Word doc, you're on Home, then you click on Paragraph, then under Special you click Hanging, and then OK. You click on OK. So that's all you have to do for the hanging indentation. It's a really easy thing, and you've noticed this student already has it for the works cited page. So again, alphabetical orders, it ends in period. It's going to end in a period, and it's got all this italics. At least one thing's going to be italicized. Also, if you notice, author's name comes first, last name, comma, first name. And if you notice, and if there is no author, then you just go with the article. Title comes first. But you notice in all these simple essays, there's not a lot of sources that don't have authors. The reason why is because people who do good work want their names attached to it. So if you have one source that doesn't have an author, that's fine. But if you have 3 sources in an essay this short, that's too many sources that don't have an author. So you want to make sure that if you're writing a 20-page paper and you had 3 or 4 sources that didn't have an author, that's one thing. But for 4 to 6 page paper, I wouldn't have more than one source that didn't have a specific name attached to it. Again, because people who do good work want their names attached to it. All right, so let's see if I can switch this back to me. I know I can do it. Here we go. All right, it's back to me. So I hope so, at least. But hopefully this will be helpful. And then I'm gonna post another video on how I want you to submit your revisions, which is a really easy thing. So, all right, thanks guys. Have a good weekend, and hopefully I will be hearing from you soon.